recipes for technical trading success in Cook's Kitchen.
Well, it was GTC week again. GTC stands for the GPU Tech Conference from NVIDIA. Jensen Huang delivered another amazing keynote, and we're going to look at a couple of minutes of it in a minute. But I just want to preview it with my favorite graphic. This thing has got to be like 5 years old right now that NVIDIA created to get across two big ideas. The idea on the left is the full stack of software and hardware that NVIDIA builds based on its CUDA architecture. CUDA stands for Compute Unified Device Architecture. And then stacked on top of that are the systems and algorithms and applications that run the high-powered chips that they make, the massively parallel architectures. And the graphic on the right is NVIDIA's reinvention of Moore's Law, where Moore's Law was leveling off in the past decade, and massively parallel architectures look to reinvent it and basically take it exponential again in terms of speed and compute power and parallel processing. So before we look at Jensen's keynote, just a reminder, we're going to do this again this week. You can get a call with me. All you got to do is go in the YouTube description below this video and click on that link. It'll take you to the article version of this video, because I always write it a sort of a companion article. It's not a transcript, but it'll cover some of the basic topics, have important links, and then new ideas that I didn't even talk about in the video. Or if I make a mistake in the video, I try and clean it up in the article afterwards. Anyway, so you take that code from the article and go to the pinned Twitter post that we just looked at of the NVIDIA graphic. Follow me, retweet that NVIDIA post with the code. You'll get the code in the article. You'll find it in the YouTube description. All right, so let's hear from the man himself. This was Tuesday morning. They premiered it in Europe, at most of us were sleeping here in the States, and then replayed it yesterday morning. And the whole thing is awesome. It's over an hour and a half. But I just want to show you this 1-2 minutes to make a point. And look at the clever IMAI, spelled backwards, I-am-AI. But they did a sort of a preview of everywhere that artificial intelligence is being used. So let's listen to Jensen talk about the stack and a key point about SDKs, which are software developer kits, and how he's building an army of developers on the CUDA platform.
Accelerated computing starts with NVIDIA CUDA, general purpose programmable GPUs. The magic of accelerated computing comes from the combination of CUDA, the acceleration libraries of algorithms that speed up applications, and the distributed computing systems and software that scale processing across an entire data center. We have been advancing CUDA in the ecosystem for 15 years and counting. We optimize across the full stack, iterating between GPU, acceleration libraries, systems, applications, continuously. All the while expanding the reach of our platform by adding new application domains that we accelerate. With our approach, end users experience speedups through the life of the product. It is not unusual for us to increase application performance by many X factors on the same chip over several years. Imagine the joy of a researcher whose simulation completed in half the time just by downloading new software. As we accelerate more applications, our network of partners experience growing demand for NVIDIA platforms. Starting from computer graphics, the reach of our architecture has reached deep into the world's largest industries. We start with amazing chips, but for each field of science, industry, and application, we create a full stack. We have over 150 SDKs that serve industries from gaming and design to life and earth sciences, quantum computing, AI, cybersecurity, 5G, and robotics. We introduced 65 new and updated SDKs at GTC this year. One of the major new industries that's accelerating with NVIDIA is design automation. I am thrilled to see Ansys, Synopsys, Cadence, and Dassault accelerate the simulation of thermal, mechanical, 3D electromagnetics, RF interference, and signal integrity. A super exciting development.
Okay, so that's a couple of minutes there from Jensen. And if you watch further, he really gets into the weeds on the integrations to these platforms. So there's at least three big ideas here. I mentioned the SDKs, the software developer kits, that essentially creates an army of NVIDIA faithful building on these platforms and systems in every industry. And that's the second big idea here, is that the CUDA platform and the full software hardware stack is applicable to any industry or any scientific endeavor. It's basically a workbench of power tools for data crunching, data research, data collection, simulation. So that brings me to the third point. He mentioned that he's so excited about design automation, and companies like Cadence, which we've owned here, and is a NVIDIA partner in the software to design chips at the sub 7 and sub 5 nanometer scale, and then simulate everything before they send the design to the wafer fab. But the simulations can be done, anywhere for any scientist. So that brings up the fourth big idea here. He mentioned the software updates, right? So if you've got a scientist working in molecular biology or climate change, and they've got an old DGX box, which is basically a supercomputer about the size of a small chair, you don't have to buy new hardware. You can download the software updates that NVIDIA is constantly pushing the envelope on to crunch the latest terabytes of data that you need to simulate something in climate or in molecular biology for cancer research or whatever. So, these are just the amazing power tools that Jensen and company are just creating and building. That's why the stock is, up here at $300 again. They report next week. A lot's priced in. I'd be a buyer on the gap fill back to 265. I own it, and we're not even selling any above 300, but we'd buy more on the gap fill back to 265. So let's take a look at that real quick. We're going to talk about laser and NVIDIA. This is a new marriage that we're going to talk about. First, let's look at the NVIDIA chart. So here we are. This was enormous volume on this gap up on November 4th. It was just an upgrade from a Wells Fargo analyst, I believe, but 115 million shares traded. And on GTC day, GPU Tech Conference day yesterday, the stock made new all-time highs above 320. It's pulling back. People are taking profits. I'm not taking profits. I'm a buyer at 265, and I don't think we're going to see 230 again. But hey, if they want to take it down there, I'll buy that gap fill too. All right, so let's talk about laser. We've owned laser for a little while. We started buying it in the summer, under 18, and we were fortunate enough to buy this dip down to 15 in October. They only have one partner, Volvo, and they're only projected to do 45 million in sales next year. But this was the big news. NVIDIA taps Luminar's remote sensing technology. It's LiDAR, light detection and ranging, for NVIDIA's, going full stack on autonomous driving. Before they were letting the auto OEMs, pick and choose their sensor networks. But NVIDIA decided, hey, we want all the sensor guys, whether it's LiDAR or cameras or whatever, to make sure they work with our chips and our software. And so that's basically the big shout of approval. So let me show you back to my Twitter feed here. I posted a lot of stuff. Here's one thing. If you click on this, explaining how NVIDIA is shifting back to the full stack and they want to bring in all these partners, and there's several of them. There's Hella, Vallejo, Continental AG, and Sony Group. Looks like 2 or 3 of those are European. And NVIDIA, the idea is that, they'll have the NVIDIA stamp of approval. Doesn't mean NVIDIA is necessarily buying laser hardware, but the system is called Hyperion that NVIDIA is building that will go into cars 2024 production models. So 2 years out, they got plenty of time to put this together. So you can find more details there. I also retweeted a bunch of things from the company itself. So let's see here. Okay, so this is from Luminar explaining their LiDAR technology. Here was the big announcement, Luminar and NVIDIA. Again, I own Luminar shares. They report Thursday after the close. So I'm not doing anything with the stock right now. We're holding what we have, and maybe I get to buy more at 17 or 18, or it's off to the races above 22, 23. Tomorrow night will tell. All right, so we looked at Jensen. We talked about that. I think it's in Luminar Laser, LAZR is the ticker, will be the bull of the day on Zacks.com tomorrow. So I share a lot more information and background there. All right, what else did I want to show you? So here was the press release from Luminar. NVIDIA calls the platform the NVIDIA Drive Hyperion Autonomous Vehicle Reference Platform. So if they're going to be providing the brains, the compute brains for autonomous driving, they need sensors. And now, laser is an approved sensor for this because they believe that, LiDAR is the future. In my article tomorrow, I'll also mention the one analyst from Northland Securities who's been all over this. And there's not that much analyst coverage for laser, but he was right on it. All right, so let's talk about who was sort of late to the game. I own Qualcomm, but Qualcomm, they just paid $4.5 billion for us. These guys are Swedish, from Sweden. This is a maker of ADAS technology. ADAS, of course, is Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. And Qualcomm almost lost this because Magna was going to pay $3.8 billion for Veoneer, and Qualcomm scrambled. They looked like they were going to lose the deal, and then they end up bidding $800 million more. I think Veoneer wanted to go with Magna, but in the end, they took the Qualcomm offer. So, and Qualcomm did an interesting acquisition here because they partnered with an investment group called SSW Partners, and this is from TechCrunch. So they bought Veoneer for $37 a share, all cash. And then at the closing, SSW, because maybe they brokered the deal, they sold all the ADAS technology stack, including sensors and software, to Qualcomm. And then they retained the Swedish company's other tier one OEM businesses as a supplier. So that was sort of an interesting deal that Qualcomm almost let slip through their fingers. So it says two things. One, they realized that they're late to the game. Intel bought Mobileye a few years ago for $15 billion, and Qualcomm realizes that they need to have some skin in the game for autonomous driving. So, there are probably they're building the chip infrastructure for it, but now they need this, the actual mechanical sensors and other software to go along with it. All right, I think that's all I wanted to show you. So keep an eye on laser tomorrow and see what the idea here is. Hey, the stock is ridiculously overvalued at 6 or 7 billion. Let's just call it 6 billion, and only 45 million in projected sales next year. And that's primarily from Volvo. But the analysts are going to try and model what the NVIDIA partnership means. I suppose the NVIDIA analysts have to do the heavy lifting first, right? They have to model, okay, what is Hyperion worth to NVIDIA 1 to 2 years out when they start selling to car manufacturers, and then you get a derivative off of that for what it means for laser LiDAR sales. All right. Check out the full Jensen Huang keynote. Tons of good stuff in here. Watch that again so you understand the 4 or 5 big takeaways of just that 2 minutes, and that explain why NVIDIA is so important. And find me on Twitter at Kevin B. Cook. Find this tweet. Get the code from the article from the YouTube description, and come here and retweet it with the code. And you'll get a call with Cooker. I do a drawing once a week now for this. All right. We'll talk to you next week, probably right before NVIDIA earnings. All right. Take care.